Alright, so we're going to be working in Illustrator. We're going to make a new document. Excuse me, we're not even going to jump into this right now. I'll cancel that. Let's do the exercises first, the name warp and the envelope distortion. I've already downloaded them. I'm going to open up the name warp exercise, drag that into Illustrator. If for some reason when you download your document and it automatically opens up, it may automatically open in Adobe Acrobat. Simply close it out and quit it. Make sure you're in Illustrator once it opens up. Illustrator files and Acrobat files tend to open up the exact same way. What we're going to do, I want you to type out your name and make a bunch of copies of it. You can choose whatever font you want, whatever size or style that you want to do. But we're going to use the type tool. With the type tool, here's the main thing to remember. Instead of clicking and dragging like we normally do to make a text box, I'm going to delete that. I just want you to click once. So clicking once will give me just a line of type. I can still type, but instead it's not going to be inside of a text box. We don't want the text box. I'll just do Ben for now. And we'll do Benjamin. Once I have it typed, remember, just like in InDesign, at the very top you can change whatever character you want. You can change the size, even the alignment, some other things. If you click on the character name, you get your characters palette, which gives you more options to work with them. I'm just going to quickly choose a font. Here's Nashville. I like Nashville. And we'll make it a little bit larger from here. And if you remember, you can change the size of it that way, or you can use your selection tool and then change the size of the bounding box. What do I need to hold down to make sure my proportions stay the same? Shift. Always hold down the Shift key to get it done. Alright, so once I have it created, we need to be able to warp and distort my name. In other words, I want to be able to bend it. I want it to be able to fit inside of the areas that I'm working with. So I showed you the examples on the board. Each of these are different shapes, and you want your name to fit well within those shapes. This is what I want to see you use. So with this, I've got my name saved. I'm going to make a couple of copies of it. All I'm doing is holding down my Option key. We're going to go to Object, Envelope Distort, Make with Warp. Y'all have probably seen this before, especially in my intro class. These are the different styles of warp envelopes that you can create. And these are the pre-made ones, the arcing. You can get a preview of what it would look like. So if I wanted to just do a regular arcing of it, I'm going to turn on Preview. You can see it'll automatically arc this way. The amount of bend determines how much it's being arced. You can go negative and it'll bend the other way. We're not going to worry for now about the horizontal or vertical distortion, but what that does, and we'll set this to 0, will make one side larger or smaller, either on the horizontal or the vertical plane. So if I did want to bend it, and let's say I wanted one side to be smaller, now I'm using both of those side by side, and I'm getting a distortion that looks a lot like that. Pretty cool. Very, very simple and easy way of doing it. And we'll say OK to that. Here's the thing to know about this. Once I've got it distorted, I can't go back with my type tool and start typing and changing it up. Instead, it's just going to make me start typing again. I can move it around, I can resize it, everything's OK. But check out what color my fill color is. It's not even black, it's gray. This is what Illustrator is doing. It's taking your type object and it's putting it inside of this particular shape. The shape is called an envelope, and it's basically distorting and warping it to fill up this entire envelope. So as you're moving it, you're not moving the words, you're moving the envelope around, and it's just putting the words inside of it. If you do want to change what's inside of your envelope, this is how you can do it. Go to Object, back to Envelope Distort, and here is Edit the Contents. Contents of what? Contents of the envelope. With that one, now check out what I got. Now you can see my type. I can highlight my type. I can change it up. So if I did want to do just the word Ben, B-E-N, I've typed it out. Notice now it's still filling up that same shape, but in this case with a lot fewer words or fewer letters that I'm working with. I can even change the color of it now because I'm only editing the contents of it, not the envelope itself. To go back, go to Object, Envelope Distort. We're going to edit the envelope. Now we're kind of back into normal editing mode with this one. So what you're going to do, I've given you options for each different type of envelope distortion. Make a copy of your name. What I do is I just make it really small. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not looking for perfection for these. I'm just looking to see can you copy or practice using the different styles of distortion. So all I'm doing is holding down my Option key, making a bunch of different copies. And I'm going to select one of the copies, Object, Envelope Distort, make with Warp. And I want you to match the style with whatever I've given you. Obviously that's an arch. What about this one? Which one would this style be? Arc lower. What about this one? Shell upper. So when you choose it, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we're going to slide that down. Try to match and play around with what it does. The object is just getting you comfortable using these once you start using them. All cool? When you're finished with this one, just save it as an Illustrator file, and you're going to upload the Illustrator file to Moodle once you've finished with that one. For the second one, we'll hit Don't Save. We're going to go a step further with it. This is the... See, it opened up in Preview in this case. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to open it up in Illustrator. So I'm going to drag it down to Illustrator. There we go. This is going to help you do a lot more with the envelope distortions. So in this case, I'm giving you all the words that you're working with. Frightful things seen here. Each one is its own little element. So you can move it around, you can change the size of it. I want you to copy whatever I have off to the right hand side. I'll zoom in. The background will give you an idea of the area that I want you to fill up. So in this case, we're going to take the word obstacles and we want it to fill up as close as possible this background area. Here's how to do it. So with this one, I've got it selected. We'll stretch it out till it fills up from one side to the other. Okay, that's looking pretty good. In this case, you can make it smaller or taller if necessary. We won't need to do that. So I've got this. Let's open up our distortion. Make with warp. So which warp do you think we need to use that will fit this one? Arc lower. Turn it on. Ooh. Be sure to set your little distortions back to 0. And then we'll just kind of arc it until it gets pretty close to what it should be. It is over a little bit, but that's okay. I can kind of nudge it up. That'll get pretty close to there. Let's do the word R. Just going to stretch it out till it reaches one side to the other. Make with warp. So which one of these do you think? That one? The flag? I think rise will probably be the best one. So we'll turn it on. There we go. Obviously going this way. Now notice that it is off, but once I hit OK, I can stretch it out to fit pretty well within that area. As close as possible. You can always go back and undo it and redo it. Now this one's going to be kind of a different one. This one has an arc on the bottom and also kind of this wave at the top. To save time, I can go ahead and tell you there is no envelope distortion that will do this one thing. So we're going to make our own customized envelope distortion. I'll start off by doing the same thing, just kind of making my words fill up left and right. With this one, we're going to go to Object, back to the Distort, and in this case we're going to make with mesh. Before we've been doing the warp, this time we're going to make our own mesh. We'll say OK to that. It'll give you this option to say how many rows and columns. I'm going to turn on our preview. What this will do is, remember the envelope is whatever shape that you're molding it to. So right now, I'm telling it how much detail do I want to be inside of my mold. The number of rows, you can see it's divided up into 4 rows and 4 columns. The more rows and columns, the more detail you can have. I'm going to keep it relatively small just for this case. We'll do 4 by 4. And I'll say OK to this. Alright, looks like nothing happened. Here's the fun part. I'm going to grab my direct selection tool, the white arrow, and remember with the white arrow I can select individual points and I can start to drag them around. So with this one I drag it up and it fills up the entire area. So this one I can move it into place. I can move these individual points and tell it where exactly I want my envelope to distort itself to. Pretty cool. So now I've got the word frightful following this top curve. Same way for the bottom curve. Drag it down. You may need to change some of the Bezier curves on it. Very, very simple, very easily. Click and drag down here. And to do this, we did the envelope distortion with the mesh. So now this is what I have with this one. You want to do it again? Real quick, just to show you. I'll do the same thing for the word things. I'll completely stretch this one out. Bring this one down. So I'm wanting to stretch it out. Object, the distortion. In this case, we're going to make it with the mesh. And you can give it a larger mesh. I'll keep it okay with this. Then we're going to use the white arrow to move each little point into place. So think of it kind of like Play-Doh or Silly Putty. You can click on it, you can move it around. You can click on these inner ones and start moving those around too, and you can see it will really warp that around, mess it up. I'm taking it one line at a time just to move things around. All cool? Very simple, very, very easy to do. I'm going to show you one more simple way of doing it. You may or may not have to do it for this particular one, but I'm just going to make you aware of it. Instead of making a mesh and then telling it where to go, what I would really like to do is just to be able to say, I want this object and I want the words to fill up inside of it. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw off the object. Grab my pen tool. In this case, I'm just going to quickly redraw what I'm working with. I'm going to go quick, so it's going to be off by a little bit. There we go. So I've drawn an object, and I will rescale this. The reason why I'm rescaling is just so it takes up a lot more room. Okay. I've got my words selected, and I'm going to hold down Shift and select my object that I drew, in this case the little outline. Now I can go to Object, Envelope Distort, and the third option is to make it with the top object. What's the top object? The shape that I just drew off. When I choose Make with Top Object, you can see automatically it warps itself and places it inside there. Sometimes it's not 100%, it'll make some estimations for you, but it does in general a pretty good job. So this works out, so if I wanted, say, my name to be in a circle, so if I typed out my name, and I wanted to quickly make it look like it's inside of a sphere, I could draw a circle around it, and then I'm going to select both of those, and this is where the Make with Top Object comes in. You can see it very quickly spherizes my object that I'm working with. Remember, the object on top, that's your envelope. It's distorting the words inside of this envelope. So if I ever wanted to change it, I go back to my envelope distortion and edit the contents and change it to, say, Nick. So now that's inside of it as well. So it's a little bit more advanced. You're having to think about two different things, but for this one we're going to keep it very, very simple. You can select it, make it larger. What would be the two ways that I can make a customized envelope?
Mesh.
mesh or trace the object on top. If it's one that's obviously being used a lot, for instance this one, you can use the Distort with Warp for this one as well. So for today, I want you to work on finishing up this exercise as well. As soon as it's done, upload the Illustrator file to Moodle. As soon as you're done with that, make your new document. So I'll go back into Illustrator. Remember, this new document's going to be 11 by 14. And type out each word by itself. So Gloria, if you're oh, there we go. I'm going to use yours. He has made everything beautiful in its time. I'll just copy it, paste it into here, make it larger. So let's say I wanted to type out the word he, in all caps perhaps. So that's its own little object. Grab my type tool again, type out the word has, change its size, not even worried about fonts for now. Type out the word made, oops. And I can move these around and make sure that they fit inside of one another. Will this work really well? He made has, make sure it reads pretty well. Something like this would work. He has made. Again, changing up fonts, making sure everything works out. What's the first thing you should do before you start a design, though? Thumbnails. Make a thumbnail. Work it out in your mind, as many as you feel like it needs to be. Then jump on the computer and start playing around with how things look and how things can be placed inside of there. Any questions on this? Okay. I'll let y'all get started.